And Mark, we are moving on into the next team, and that next team is the Carolina Panthers. And before we get into this preview, I believe you have to do something that you love to do every time we talk about the Panthers.
Claw up.
You did it a little bit too soon. I was setting you up for it, but you still clawed
I was excited.
up like
Sometimes
a champ.
you prematurely claw up.
Premature clawing up.
It happens, man. It happens to the best of us.
I was trying to make it work, but the elation part wasn't there. But a premature claw up for Mark over there on the other side of the table because he's just so excited to talk about the Carolina Panthers. And the first question I want to ask you about these said Panthers is about Cam Newton, because you mentioned it before we started recording. You were looking at this team, and you're like, man, this passing attack was not good last year. They're a team that, first off, traded Calvin Benjamin away. Their leading receiver last year was they had Devin Funchess, but they also had Ted Ginn Jr. Ted Ginn Jr. is now gone. Torrey Smith, they get him via a trade, I believe, this offseason. I believe that's when they got him this offseason because he was with the Eagles last year. They get Torrey Smith. They get DJ Moore via the draft. Christian McCaffrey's still in that backfield, although Jonathan Stewart no longer there. They get C.J. Anderson, so now it's McCaffrey, Artis Payne, C.J. Anderson, and then Elijah Hood in that backfield. What are your thoughts on this Panther team, Cam Newton in this offense? Can they turn it around this year?
It's kind of rough because the running game was really good last year, and I expect the running game will just still be really good. The defense is good here. The problem that they have, like you were mentioning, it's just that passing game. It's just not good enough. And the wide receivers have never been amazing, and even when they have good ones, like Benjamin has not really been the healthiest of wide receivers out there. So it's just a kind of difficult thing to see and say, man, they've got this really talented quarterback. They got this great running game, great defense. Why don't you give him some weapons? Why don't you give him something to throw the ball to?
I forgot to mention another big addition to this passing game, to this offense, that I believe might help change your mind just a little bit, or not even change your mind, just add into it. They have a new OC this year. Do you know who it is?
Tell me who it is.
Norv Turner is now the OC. After taking a year off last year, after being the OC for the Vikings, I believe for only 2 years. He was with us 3 years. He was with us 2014 to 2016. Norv Turner is another new addition to this offense, being the OC for the Panthers in 2018.
I have a big question when it comes to the offense here for the Carolina Panthers. And it's a question of, I hope Cam Newton's going to be healthy. He needs this Kevlar vest that he's got because nobody gets hit more than Cam Newton. Nobody gets hit hard more than Cam Newton. And
I mean, he's also he is the definition of Superman. He gets into an accident, flips his truck, walks out, just brushes off the shoulders. I'm Superman.
The problem for Superman Cam Newton here is it's the blind side. Matt Khalil is not someone I would want to rely on to not get hit.
Talking about former Viking.
Yeah, right? He's someone who I would have no faith in that he's going to protect me at all. So Cam Newton, a guy who gets hit a lot, who gets hit very hard. He's been the focus of conversation for over a year now of just are we not correctly protecting our mobile quarterbacks in the NFL, who is so concerned about player safety, so they say. Cam Newton's one of those guys who always kind of gets the raw end of the deal here, and he's a big guy. He's built like Big Ben, where he's not going to get hurt, but Big Ben has been hurt, and he has been a guy who has not been able to do the things he used to be able to do in his career. Cam Newton's getting to that point now where, what is he, 29? Yeah, 29 years old, where eventually you're going to start slowing down a little bit.
Well, and
some of those hits are going to come up and kind of eat away at you.
And it's important that you say that, because one of the things that Norv Turner is going to bring to this offense, I was looking at an article, and they were saying that Norv Turner is going to bring a lot more drop back passes to this Panther offense. And for me, the big question with Cam Newton is when you look at the quarterbacks in this league, I mean, I'm just going to go through the playoff quarterbacks, and some of them better than others. Tom Brady, Big Ben, this is from last year, Blake Bortles, Alex Smith, Marcus Mariota, Tyrod Taylor. About maybe 3 of those. I mean, Big Ben, you can kind of say is flexible. He's only
not so much anymore.
He's not as mobile as he used to be. I'd put him more in the drop back. Really, the only ones that are mobile with air quotes were Tyrod and Marcus Mariota. They're at the bottom. The other guys are at the top. Then you look at the NFC. Carson Wentz or Nick Foles. Carson Wentz, he runs sometimes, but he's not as mobile, recklessly mobile as he was in college. He's more of a drop back, if it breaks down, I can run forward.
Well, it helps that you have an amazing offensive line and great wide receivers.
You look at Case Keenum. He wasn't really mobile last year. You look at Jared Goff. He wasn't a mobile quarterback last year. You look at Drew Brees. He definitely ain't a mobile quarterback. You look at Matt Ryan. He's not a mobile quarterback. The only one to make the playoffs last year that was a true mobile is Cam Newton. The question is, as you are getting older, can you make that transition into being a successful drop-back passer? Because the more you get older, the more you can't rely on that athleticism. And with how Cam Newton's numbers are as a true drop-back passer, it's going to be one of those things where it's like, man, he's just not that good with the drop-back passing.
Well, he can be good drop-back.
I'm just saying he needs to get a little bit better at it, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but I mean, some of his best years have been around 38 to 4,000 yards.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, 2015, his best year, he was not necessarily yardage-wise, but he was 35 touchdowns to 10 interceptions. I'd be happy with that as a drop-back passer. I don't need him to be a 5,000-yard passer.
Mm-hmm.
I just need him to be successful and efficient. Now, of course, 2015, he also ran for 600-plus yards. But even without some of that, they still had one of the better running games with just their running backs as well.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned the drop-back passing, but that's exactly my point. I don't trust Matt Khalil.
Mm-hmm.
I don't trust the entire left side of this offensive line to keep him healthy. So, sure, drop-back passes are great, but when you've got less than 3 seconds or just about 3 seconds to throw the ball, there's not much you can do with that. That's the thing that kind of worries me for Cam Newton and the Carolina Panthers of what can stall them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they still have the potential. If they can move towards just kind of being very fast, very just West Coast with this offense, get the ball out of your hands really fast, don't really worry about they're coming to get me.
Which
that's
North
what North Turner
has been more West Coast.
Yeah, that's what he really does it pretty efficiently. But you really got to, when you don't have a good offensive line, West Coast is a little hard to pull off at times because you don't need a ton of time for it to develop, but you just need enough. And fortunately for the Panthers, having a really good run game is going to help at least keep the defenses honest.
That's why I'm focusing on 3 guys on this offense.
Mm-hmm.
The first one's Greg Olsen. I think that if he stays healthy, he is going to flourish the most in this Norv Turner offense, because I actually want to do some quick research. I probably should have done this before the podcast, but you had I said 2014 to 2016 was when he was with Minnesota. I just want to look really quick to see if Kyle Rudolph was leading the receiving. So 2014 for the Vikings, the leading receiver, it was not Kyle Rudolph. Kyle Rudolph only had 34 targets. I think he was hurt that year. Greg Jennings was our leading receiver. But then 2015 wasn't Kyle Rudolph again. It was Stephon Diggs. But Kyle Rudolph was
second isn't working out for
on the team. No, it's not. And then 2016, just to see, it was Thielen, and Kyle Rudolph was second off. But the point I can make from that is that the Vikings have 2 really good wide receivers, 2 wide receivers that I would say are better than the top 2 wide receivers for the Panthers. And I'm sorry if that's a dig at Torrey Smith, but it's kind of a little dig.
You're saying back in that
Torrey
2014,
Smith.
2015 team? I wouldn't say so back then.
I would still say Thielen and Diggs have been production-wise.
But Thielen was productive last year. North Turner wasn't there last year.
No. But I'm saying we've seen progression out of Thielen for this year. So he led the team in 2016, got better in 2017, but yes, that was with Pat Shurmur's offense. The thing I think is Greg Olsen's going to be the main benefactor from Norv Turner because, yes, Torrey Smith is a good wide receiver, but I don't think he's the Torrey Smith of old. Devin Funchess, to me, I've never fell in love with Devin Funchess. He's just been all right for me. And that's why number 2, the second player I'm focusing on, is DJ Moore. I feel like people are going to focus on Torrey Smith. They're going to focus on Devin Funchess. Hell, they'll even focus on Curtis Samuel, to where DJ Moore is going to have a sneaky surprising rookie year, to where a lot of people who aren't focusing on Carolina are going to turn their heads and go, whoa, who's this guy in Carolina that's really tearing it up? And then the third guy I think that will benefit from this Norv Turner West Coast style is the running back Christian McCaffrey, more so also because he doesn't have to compete with Jonathan Stewart for carries and can be the if de facto number 1 running back for the Panthers.
Well, I mean, certainly that's going to help as a running back, not having someone to be a committee with, essentially. But
and he's also the perfect West Coast quarterback because he's kind of like a receiver at the running back position.
I mean, it certainly helps. I think what I want to see out of Christian McCaffrey, and I liked Christian McCaffrey last year, is I want to see him really own the running back portion of being a running back. And I mean, it's nice to have the pass catching ability as well, but I want to see him start to really own the actual being a running back. With the Carolina Panthers and with DJ Moore, I don't necessarily think that many defenses, fans maybe, but I don't really think that defenses are going to sleep on him. I think he walks in here being quite probably the second best wide receiver on this roster. I don't want to discount Funchess. I mean, he was an 800-yard wide receiver last year. He did well for an offense that wasn't that great. Cam only had 3,200 maybe, 2,300 maybe, or 3,300 passing yards. So it wasn't an explosive passing game last year anyways. I mean, it's one of the worst passing games in the NFL.
Does it get better? Does the passing game get better, and by how much do you think it'll get better?
Well, it's hard to say how much because it's hard to know how prominent the running game is still going to be.
Because the one thing I will say, and Saint fans will, this whole year, Saints fans will bring up the play that happened in Minnesota and use that as a chip on their shoulder. But I remember watching that first-round game against the Panthers and the Saints, and that was a game where there was, I can't even remember who it was. I think he was a rookie wide receiver. Yeah, I can't even remember who the wide receiver was in the end zone. He goes to catch it on the side of the end zone, and it just goes right through his hands. And it was a blatant drop to where it's that would have swung the game for the Panthers. And to me, that's what I feel like. This wide receiver core needs to be better because, yeah, I know I'm picking out one game, but this wide receiver core cost them their season last year when they played the Saints in the Superdome. Is it still Superdome? In New Orleans.
It's also just important to recognize that it has to be better when it was, like I said, one of the worst passing games in the NFL last year. So you got to be better than that. And DJ Moore, I think, is hopefully an answer to that question. They also go ahead and draft a tight end in the 4th round, so they know that they need to improve passing the ball. They also are looking for Josh Norman's replacement, drafting a couple of cornerbacks in rounds 2 and 3. They're looking for something to get back to when they were that 2015 Super Bowl going team. Not quite winning, but going there at least. They were very, very dominant on all facets of the football game there.
And the thing that I'll, yet again, bring up the schedule, I'm going to use the same thing I said for the Falcons with the Panthers because it's the same schedule. It's almost the same schedule minus 2 teams. Division, I think the Panthers keep even with the Falcons, like I said, for the Falcon record. They'll beat the Bucs twice because the Bucs are going to be bad this year. They'll split with the Falcons, losing the road games, winning the home games. They'll split with the Saints, winning the home game, losing the road game. For me, the AFC North I'll start with. I see them 2-2. The Ravens, I don't think the Panthers are as good as the Falcons in that matchup. Ravens get the win, although it's in Carolina. and the Steelers, you get them on the road. If the Falcons can't even beat the Steelers on the road, you on Thursday night on a shortened week are not going to beat the Steelers in Week 10. That to me brings the question of, like I said for the other one, NFC East were, yeah, I could see them going 3-1 against that division. Cowboys will be the biggest question, but Eagles is a loss. Giants and Redskins could be wins. And then it comes down to, yet again, like I said for the Falcons, what do you do against the Lions and the Seahawks? Yeah, you get the Seahawks at home. Lions are on the road, but those could even be 2 games that the Panthers lose. So this is a team, depending on the schedule being a little tougher for them, they could be like a 8-8, 9-7 team, or if they're really good, could be a 10-6, 11-5 team. Yeah,
this team has one of the bigger ranges. You know, like you mentioned, you know, it can be anywhere from an 8-8 team to an 11-win team. So there's a huge range in that, and so much of it's going to rely on, is the running game still as good with a loss? And can these wide receivers really step up and be something that Cam needs? And is Cam going to be on his 2 feet, or is he going to be on the ground?
Yeah.
You know, defensively, they're good. I want to see how these 2 corners, these 2 rookies are going to be, if they're going to make a noticeable difference to this defense. But, you know, it's just going to have to be a little bit of a learning year. I would not be surprised to see the Panthers miss out on the playoffs this year as they really kind of learn this new offense and really kind of gel and adapt as a team. One more year and they're right back in the hunt.
And yeah, for me, it's like this team right now, I'm going to be honest, although I think the offense will be better than it was last year, I'm kind of leaning towards that bottom end of that range. Like I said, more of the 8-8, 9-7 side of it than I am the 10-6, 11-5 side of it, because I just look at the schedule, and maybe it's because we just came off of the Falcons, and I'll be honest, out of this division, I am the highest on the Falcons. Spoiler for Saint fans who are waiting for their preview as well. But I mean, this Panther team could be, it's like, it's weird. If they play well, they could be a playoff team. But if they don't play well in the bigger games, like those playoff games, the game against the Steelers, the Eagles, I'm going to even throw out the Giants and the Cowboys in there, the Lions, the Seahawks. This could be a team where it's like they're almost like the Seahawks or Cowboys from last year, where it's like, all right, we're 9-7, didn't make the playoffs. Wow, this was not a good year for us, and we got to go into the draft to kind of get more weapons and see if we can make a splash next year in our division in this kind of tougher conference. Any final thoughts on the Panthers before we move on and end the podcast with the New Orleans Saints?
Claw up.
That's it? Just a little claw up. This is where you guys come in. Let us know what you think down below in that comment section. What are you excited for with the Panthers? What are you not excited for? What is your weak link? And how do you think this season is going to go? Let us know what you think down below in that comment section.